So let us start the chapter of international economic organizations, and this chapter is important. Every year you will find on an average one question. हर साल आपको एक क्वेश्चन देखने को मिलेगा. On an average one question you will find from this chapter, and if we see overall coverage of this chapter, we can actually see there are four important areas. One is IMF, International Monetary Fund. Second is World Bank. Third is WTO, and then there are other organizations, other bilateral, multilateral organizations, primarily the multilateral organizations, right? Every year you will find 1 to 2 question. So some year in some years there can be 2 question also, one question from IMF, World Bank, one question from WTO, like that. So this chapter becomes very, very important. Concepts are very, very less. More of things are in the factual nature, but very, very important for the examination point of view. Right? So let us now discuss about the International Monetary Fund. This is very, very important for the exam point of view. It is an autonomous organization affiliated to UNO. What is UNO? UNO is United Nations Organization, right? So this is an affiliate organization of the UNO. It was established on 20th December 1945. India is the founding member. This is very important for the examination. This is also part of the important point. This is affiliate of the United Nations and India is the founding member, right? So you need to keep in mind this point. The question will be made on any one of these points. You will find the questions are being made from this point only. Currently it has 189 members, and the latest member is Nauru, who joined in 2016. And do you know how much is the population of Nauru? Anyone? How much is the population of Nauru? Idea बता दो कोई भी. Just a rough idea.
80 लाख.
12,000. Surprised, है ना? 12,000. It is a micro island in the Pacific Ocean near the equator. So, hello. Yeah. The population is 12,000 only. Okay? So you will be surprised. है ना? इंडिया में तो इतना एक 2 गली में मिला के हो जाता है. And this is a separate country in the IMF, right? Headquarter of IMF is in Washington DC, USA, है ना? Current MD is a Bulgarian citizen, Bulgarian economist, Kristalina Georgieva, and she is there since I don't know whether he or she कौन है ये, really I don't know, since October 2019. So I cannot identify it from the name. अगर इंडिया में होता तो ये तब भी कुछ भी हो सकता था, है ना? Anyways, the term is 5 years. This is important point. 5-year term, right? 5-year term. This is important for the examination. And Indian citizen chief economist Geeta Gopinath, she is also there since 2018, right? So from this point, from this slide, this point is also important and this point is also important. Now IMF is financed by all its member countries. So all the member countries, they give their contribution to the IMF. We will discuss the mechanism, how much every country is supposed to give. We will discuss that thing in detail, right? IMF provides loan to the member countries only. The question was asked on this part in 2011, right? IMF can also borrow money from its member countries or other institutions. So it can give loan to only member countries it can borrow the money from the member countries as well as it can borrow money from the other institutions as well, right? So this is the important point, that it can borrow the money from other institutions as well, right? Recently US quota is 17.45%. Earlier in the starting this was 31%. So the quota of USA has been declining over a period of time. As of now, the India's quota is 2.76%. We will discuss what is the meaning of quota, what is the total distribution. We will discuss all of those things. Now, what are the objectives of IMF? So one important thing that you have to keep in mind, the primary objective is to maintain the monetary stability of the balance of payment account and stability of the exchange rate. That is the prime objective. So first, to solve short-term balance of payment crisis of member countries. So even in 1991, when India faced the BOP crisis, India went to the IMF. And so when India was having the shortage of foreign exchange reserve, it went to the IMF and it got the support from the IMF, but definitely under some conditionality, right? So IMF laid down some conditionality, but it solved the problem of India. Second, reduction of exchange rate control. So the countries should minimize their exchange rate control. The exchange rate should be left to the free market forces. It should not be fixed exchange rate. So unlike in China, the exchange rate is actually not completely transparent. The countries always doubt whether it is completely transparent, right? So it is not completely transparent. So the IMF want that it is the market forces which should be able to determine the exchange rate based upon the capability of country, based upon other parameters rather than the countries themselves. So that will promote the free and fair flow of money across the world. So that will promote free and fair flow of money. So nowadays we can hear a lot of noise from the birds, है ना? पहले तो सुनने को मिलता ही नहीं था दिल्ली में, अभी तो बहुत सुनने को मिलता है. Next is to facilitate balanced growth of international trade. So that is also one of the important point. So this point you should mark because you might feel that this is the responsibility of the World Trade Organization, right? But actually this is also the responsibility of the IMF. To promote stable exchange rate regime and to promote international monetary cooperation. These are the objectives of IMF, right? So out of all these points, the point number 3 is very, very important because you might actually miss this point and you might feel this is the responsibility of the WTO. So at that point of time, you can make a mistake. Reduction of exchange control is basically, so you know, I discussed the concept of exchange rate in the, so I don't know whether you have attended that session or not, but in the external sector I discussed the concept of exchange rate regimes. So what is this concept? So exchange rate regime can be fixed or flexible, right? So fixed का मतलब होता है कि a country's government will fix the exchange rate, and the flexible का मतलब होता है the market forces of demand and supply will fix the exchange rate, है ना? तो what should be the exchange rate between Indian rupee and US dollar? This will be fixed by the market forces, right? So the fixed exchange rate regime basically indicates that government of the country has the control over the exchange rate, which is not good for the international free flow of funds, because the particular country can decrease or increase the exchange rate and take the benefit in terms of high export and low import, right? So by fluctuating the exchange rate, it can take the unnecessary advantage in its own favor, right? So we want that exchange rate should not be in the control of the local government, the national government. It should be in the domain of free market forces, demand and supply. ठीक है? तो अगर इंडिया में इंटरेस्ट रेट ज्यादा होगा तो ऑटोमेटिकली पैसा आएगा, द मनी विल ऑटोमेटिकली कम एंड इंडियन रुपी विल ऑटोमेटिकली एप्रिशिएट. सो exchange rate between the Indian rupee and other currency should be determined by the demand and supply forces rather than by the government, by the national government. So this is the point. ठीक है? For more clarity, you should see that session completely, because that then you will be able to understand why this is important to keep the flexible exchange rate regime. ठीक है? वो आप तभी समझ पाओगे जब वो सेशन देखोगे. I cannot discuss in detail as of now. ठीक है, आप सेशन देखो, कंप्लीट सेशन है 1 आवर का, अभी डिस्कस नहीं कर सकता मैं. ठीक है, ओके, वंडरफुल.
मार्केट में हेलो
एक्सटर्नल सेक्टर में वो. ठीक है, इट इज पार्ट ऑफ द एक्सटर्नल सेक्टर. नाउ व्हाट आर द फंक्शंस ऑफ IMF? सो फर्स्ट फंक्शन इज सर्वेलेंस. So we have 2 reports under this. One is World Economic Outlook and Global Financial Stability Report. Both of these reports have already been asked in the UPSC previous year. You will see the question, right? So these reports are very, very important, which are given by the International Monetary Fund. World Economic Outlook, Global Financial Stability Report. Then second function is lending. It provides loan to the member countries and it provides financial stability. So loan is given to the member countries. Please be careful. Loan is given to the member countries only. The question has been asked on this part also, right? Then it also provides the technical guidance and assistance. Now, from where IMF gets its funds? So these are the financial resources generated by the IMF. तो IMF को पैसा कहां से मिलता है? From where the money is generated by the IMF? The first source is quota. So all the member countries, they have their quota or their share in the IMF fund, and they are supposed to contribute according to the quota into the IMF fund, right? So for example, India has 2.76% quota. That means the fund which are supposed to be collected from the quota system, out of that 2.76% fund will be deposited by the India. So this quota system is applicable for the members. As per the assigned quota, this fund is generated. We will discuss about this quota in the next slide. The second source is multilateral borrowing. Multilateral means from more than one country, right? From more than one country. Through NAB. What is NAB? New arrangement to borrow. NAB means new arrangement to borrow. So before NAB there was GAB, General Arrangement to Borrow, which was in existence from 1962 and it ended on December 2017. As of now we have new arrangement to borrow and it has total 40 participants, and India has also contributed to the IMF under this scheme $12 billion to meet the sovereign debt crisis of Europe. So in around 2011 there was sovereign debt crisis in Europe. To resolve that crisis, India contributed $12 billion, right? So this is NAB, New Arrangement to Borrow. Multilateral borrowing through NAB, it is an additional source of funding, and these are the credit arrangements between IMF and a group of member countries. So member countries से ही होता है ये. This is also from the member countries only, right? And this is used only in exceptional situations. Third is bilateral borrowing arrangement. So after quota and NAB, in order to meet financial need of member, IMF also goes for bilateral borrowing arrangement, under which it has 40 participants. So here it will get the fund from a particular country right? For example, from USA only or only from India, only one country will be contributing. That is BBA. So we have quota, NAB and BBA. These are the three sources of funding for the IMF. Now coming to the quota. What is the quota system? IMF quota system, right? So member countries are assigned a quota which determines its maximum contribution. So quota will determine how much will be the contribution of a particular country in the IMF's financial resources. And these are determined in the SDR, special drawing rights, right? What is the meaning of special drawing right? We will discuss. Quota of the country is determined by its relative position. So how much should be the quota of India? How much should be the quota of China? That is determined by a formula. We will discuss that formula after this slide. So initially the country can pay up to 25% of the quota in the foreign currency, that is US dollar, euro, yen, etc. That is called reserve tranche. So for example, India is supposed to deposit $10 billion. So out of that $10 billion, it can deposit 25% in the US dollars or in the euro, in some other foreign currency. So that is called reserve tranche. Quotas are reviewed at least after 5 years, right? The quota system is also used to access a member's relative position and voting right. So quota system also defines how much is the position of a member in the overall system of IMF and how much is the voting right of the member, right? Now this is the formula based upon which the quota of a country is determined. तो इंडिया का कोटा कितना होना चाहिए, चाइना का कोटा कितना होना चाहिए, उसको डिटरमिन करने के लिए हमारे पास में ये फॉर्मूला होता है. मेंबर कंट्रीज जीडीपी 50% वेटेज होगा, है ना. जीडीपी अगर आपका बहुत ज्यादा है तो आपको ज्यादा कोटा मिलेगा. एंड इवन दिस जीडीपी वी यूज टू बोथ द जीडीपी, वी यूज्ड द मार्केट एक्सचेंज रेट बेस्ड जीडीपी एंड पीपीपी एक्सचेंज रेट जीडीपी, है ना. सो इन द मार्केट एक्सचेंज रेट, suppose we are at the 5th position, India is at the 5th position. In the PPP exchange rate, we are at the 3rd position, right? So we will be taking 60% of the market exchange rate and 40% of the PPP exchange rate. What is the meaning of PPP exchange rate? I have already discussed in the national income chapter. So you should go to the national income chapter and see the lecture over there, right? So first is the GDP, second is the economic openness. So whether this is whether there is current account convertibility, capital account convertibility. So for example, in India we have current account convertibility, but we do not have the complete capital account convertibility, right? So if we also have the capital account convertibility, then our quota can increase, our voting right in the IMF can increase. Economic variability. Variability means whether we are the stable country or our economy is fluctuating so much, our growth rate is fluctuating so much, right? So this indicates whether our economy is variable or this is comparatively stable. Basically the overall stability of the economy is also considered. Then how much is the international reserve? So how much is the foreign exchange reserve? So that is also determining our quota. So these are the 4 items. You are not supposed to remember the weightage, but you should at least have an idea. Now, what is the role of quota? Quota से क्या होता है? What is the basically what is the importance of quota for a member country? So it defines the subscription to IMF, means how much will be the contribution to IMF fund by the country, maximum amount of financial resources which a member is supposed to deposit. Number 2, it also defines the members' voting rights, and the members' voting right comprise of basic vote होता है, right? And there is some additional vote for each 1 lakh SDR of quota, है ना. Please understand this. So basic vote होता है आपका, ठीक है. Basic vote is almost equal for everyone, and based upon your contribution to quota, you get additional vote for each 1 lakh SDR of quota. So your voting power is also decided by the quota. So in IMF, the voting power is not equal. It is dependent upon the SDR quota. Then we have access to IMF financing also. तो आपके पास में जितना ज्यादा कोटा होगा उतना ही आपके पास में लोन उतना ज्यादा आपको मिल सकता है IMF से. So The more is the quota that you have, the more is the loan that you can get from the IMF, right? So these are the three important role played by the quota. Now if we see country wise quota, some of the important countries, USA quota is 17.45%, voting share is 16.52%. China 6.41, 6.09, UK, and then India. So you should know about USA, China and India. India का भी कितना है? Quota is 2.76 and voting share is 2.64. So largest is with the USA and smallest is with the Tuvalu, Tuvalu, right? So largest quota of the IMF is with the USA and smallest quota is with the Tuvalu. Now IMF provides the financing to its member countries. So what are those kind of financing? So there are two kind of financing. One is concessional financing. Concessional financing means subsidized rate of interest is charged by the IMF, right? So the concessional financing, you can see concessional lending through Poverty Reduction and Growth Trust. So this Poverty Reduction and Growth Trust facility is there. Under this facility, only low income countries, LIC, and who are its members, please be careful, these are very, very important thing. In the examination you can find direct question, right? So through Poverty Reduction and Growth Trust, only low income countries who are its members on concessional terms, that is a zero interest rate, through facilities under the Poverty Reduction and Growth Trust. As far as India is concerned, India is not low income country from the IMF point of view, right? So that is why India is not eligible to get concessional lending. India is not eligible to get concessional lending. Under PRGT, there are three concessional lending facilities. So there are three facilities. One is extended credit facility, which is for the medium to long term for the BOP problem. Standby, which is for the short term for the BOP problem, and rapid, which is for the urgent or very, very short term. Extended for the medium to long term, standby for the short term, and rapid for the urgent need, right? Additionally, since 2015, IMF helps poor countries which are hit by natural disasters in terms of giving them funds under post-catastrophe debt relief trust. So there is one more trust, post-catastrophe debt relief fund, under which the poor countries are helped at the time of natural disaster. Then there is non-concessional lending. It means the loan will be given at the market rate of interest, right? So in the concessional lending, the loan was given concessional, zero rate of interest. Here the rate of interest is market rate of interest, right? So here again we have standby facility, extended facility and rapid financing instrument. स्टैंड के अंदर शॉर्ट टर्म के लिए होगा, एक्सटेंडेड के अंदर मीडियम और लॉन्ग टर्म के लिए होगा, रैपिड के अंदर अर्जेंट के लिए होगा, ठीक है. अपार्ट फ्रॉम दैट फ्लेक्सिबल क्रेडिट लाइन इज फॉर दोज कंट्रीज which are having very strong fundamentals but which are requiring the money for very high risk situation, right? Then precautionary and liquidity line, this is for the countries which have very sound fundamental but who are facing some moderate vulnerability, right? तो जैसे कि if we talk about flexible credit line, when eurozone was in crisis in 2011, at that point of time European countries which were having very good fundamentals but for the short period of time they were having high risk, they might have taken the loan from this facility, right? If India is supposed to get any loan, it will get under the non-concessional lending only. So now please see this question. This is the question of 2011 UPSC and tell me what is the answer.
Option C.
C, sir.
So question is very, very easy. Regarding the IMF, which one of the following statement is correct? It grants loan only to member countries, right? Option C is answer. Please mute yourself. Now, important reports published by the IMF. First, World Economic Outlook. It is published twice and it indicates the risk and uncertainty, right? Global Financial Stability Report. It is also published twice and it assesses the stability of the global financial markets. In October 2019, it indicated the key vulnerabilities which include a rising corporate debt burden, that is the corporate balance sheet, more illiquid assets and greater reliance on the external borrowing. Fiscal Monitor Report. So World Economic Outlook and Global Financial Stability Report, they have already been asked in the exam. Fiscal Monitor Report, this is not asked in the exam, so you should remember Fiscal Monitor Report is given by the IMF only, right? IMF only. Fiscal Monitor Report is given by the IMF. External Sector Report, it is also given by the IMF. Regional Economic Report is also given by the IMF, right? So Fiscal Monitor Report, External Sector Report, Regional Economic Report, all of these are given by the IMF. You can see this question in 2014. Question is very easy. Which of the following organizations brings out the publication World Economic Outlook? आंसर क्या है इसका? IMF. Very easy question. Then Global Financial Stability Report, the answer is IMF, right? So direct question are in direct question. That is why I say these chapters are very important as well as very easy. The chances of mistake are very rare. You should not miss these type of question. If you are missing this type of question, you are actually creating a big trouble for yourself, because these questions are not supposed to be missed, and most of the time these things you will find in the current affairs. तो current affairs से ये आती हैं, ठीक है ना? Now coming to the governance, how this IMF is governed, कि IMF की जो governance है वो किस तरह से होती है. So IMF has two major bodies for the governance. One is Board of Governors, another is Executive Board. So this Board of Governors is basically kind of legislative body which makes all the rules, regulations, and this is represented by all the member countries. So all the member countries, all the 189 members, they have their representation in this body. From each country there is one governor and one alternate governor in this body, right? From India side, the governor is Minister of Finance and alternate governor is the governor of RBI, right? Similarly, from all the other countries, depending upon their choice, they can appoint Minister of Finance or their central bank head. So this is the primary body, Board of Governor. Then we have Executive Board, which is basically executive body, which basically executes the function of IMF, but under the control of the Board of Governor only, right? So Board of Governor is superior as compared to the Executive Board. So you can read about Board of Governor here. The Board of Governor is the topmost decision making body. And it has one governor, one alternate governor from each member country. In India, FM, the Minister of Finance, is the governor and RBI governor is the alternate governor. It has very important powers. For example, to approve quota increase of member country, कि quota increase होगा या decrease होगा, allocation of SDR, admitting new member country, appointing executive directors, all of these, right? So important decisions are with the Board of Governor only. And there are two ministerial committees, two expert committees under the Board of Governor. First is International Monetary and Finance Committee, IMFC. This body meets twice a year to discuss matters on common concern affecting global economy and accordingly advises BOG. Many international institutions, including World Bank, participate as the observer in the meeting of IMFC. Right? This body has already been asked in the UPSC. Very, very important. Second is Development Committee. This body is also important. You should remember, right? You should remember this point also. You should remember India की तरफ से FM is the governor and RBI governor is the alternate governor, right? Development Committee की बात करते हैं. It is a joint forum of IMF and World Bank group which also meets twice a year. It advises on financial requirements for economic development in developing countries. Executive Board. So second body is Executive Board, right? So it consists.
आवाज नहीं आ रही. Your voice is not audible.
Now is it audible? Now?
Yes.
Okay. So Executive Board, it consists of 24 members which usually meet several times each week. So they are meeting regularly. There are 24 directors, each representing a single country, right? So who chooses the executive directors? The Board of Governors, right? And out of these executive director, the managing director is chosen, who is head of the staff and chairperson of the executive board, and he is appointed by the Board of Governors, है ना, for a term of 5 years. The Board of Governors chooses the chairperson और मैनेजिंग डायरेक्टर ऑफ द IMF. ठीक है. So what is the answer to this question?
C, sir. C for cat.
Answer is C for cat. Very, very easy question. लेकिन easy कब होगा? जब आप पढ़ोगे, है ना? If you read the right material, right? So both the statements are correct. We have just completed this. Now, relationship between India and the IMF. India is the founding member of IMF, right? India is the founding member of IMF. And earlier India was the borrower. Now India is a lender from 2012. So in 2011 there was a Eurozone crisis. After that India lended the money and it became the lender. India is the 13th largest IMF quota holding country, and India's voting right has increased. IMF has helped India during two BOP crises. One in 1981 under extended fund facility, and under in 1991 under 2 SBA. India has subscribed to special data dissemination standard. This is a basically standard under which it is committed to observe global accounting standard for the government organization. So the government accounting should be as per the global standard. That is the commitment of India, and this commitment is met under the IMF's special data dissemination standard, right? Now there are some recent reforms. First, more than 6% transfer of voting rights from US and European countries to the emerging member countries like China. So you can see here, India का बढ़ गया, China का बढ़ गया. India का from 2.3 to 2.6, China from 3.8 to 6%. Chinese RMB has been included in the SDR basket of 2016, right? Now SDR, special drawing right. I already discussed this point in the external sector, but again just quick overview of this special drawing right. It is an artificial currency unit which is known as special drawing right, है ना? So SDRs are the foreign exchange reserve assets under the IMF. So suppose this is the IMF, and IMF has all these foreign exchange reserves, right? ये आपके reserve हैं. So these reserve will be divided into currency unit, and this currency unit will be called SDR unit, right? This will be called a SDR unit. So this is not actually a currency. This is not actually currency. This is the artificial unit just for the sake of measurement. this is not the actual paper currency. This is not an actual proper currency, or it's not a claim over the IMF, right? It is not any currency. It is just a unit of account, just which is maintained by the IMF, right? And the value of SDR is based upon the value of the basket of these major currencies, out of which this Chinese currency was added in 2016. The question was asked in the UPSC, right? So you can see the highest share goes to the US dollar, second highest to the euro, then we have China, Japan and Britain, right? So just see these 5 currencies: US dollar, euro, Chinese RMB, Japanese yen and British pound. These are the countries whose currencies have been included in the SDR, and the basket is reviewed every 5 years. As of now, the value of one SDR is $1.38, and it is not traded in the foreign exchange market. So this is not an actual currency. This is just unit of account. जितनी भी foreign currency IMF के पास थी, हमने उसको डिवाइड करके SDR यूनिट में डेनोमिनेट कर दिया, राइट? उसको हमने SDR यूनिट में डेनोमिनेट कर दिया. Then there is one term which is in news, Washington consensus. Washington consensus. So this Washington consensus, it indicates a set of policies and conditions, or known as IMF conditionalities. So when India went to IMF in 1991 to borrow the amount, IMF put some conditions over the India. IMF said you need to open your economy, you need to liberalize your economy, you need to globalize your economy, right? So all these reforms were initiated after 1991. Our economy was opened under this conditionality only, under the conditionality of the Washington consensus, right? So under these conditionalities, IMF tries to put some conditions so that the country can come out of the BOP crisis. So when some country is in the BOP crisis, it will go to the IMF, will demand the money. IMF will say, please open your economy, please liberalize your economy, so that your foreign exchange reserve can increase and you can come out of the BOP crisis. So these conditionalities are for member countries. So these are the set of policies and conditions which member countries take, based upon which member countries take the financial assistance from the IMF. And these are in addition to the collateral or the surety which is submitted by the member countries. If the conditions are not met, the funds may be withheld by the IMF. तो conditions अगर नहीं है तो meet नहीं हो रही, तो IMF can actually withhold the fund. Some of these conditions also known as Washington consensus for structural adjustment, and these conditions can include devaluation of currency, higher interest rate to stabilize the currency, balancing budget and not overspending, removal of price control and state subsidies, enhancing the right of foreign investor vis-a-vis national laws, and trade liberalization. So open your economy, liberalize your economy, this is the theme, and the purpose is to enable the member to become self-sufficient, right? So these are the important points of the IMF. With this we complete this session. In the next section we will start with the World Bank, then we will discuss about the World Trade Organization, then we will discuss about the other associated organizations, right? So World Trade Organization is very important, little bit conceptual also, so we will discuss that very carefully in detail.
View of understanding the current affairs and this WTO always being in news, this topic is very important. Otherwise also you never know that this topic can be asked anytime the question can be asked from this topic, right? So we will discuss about the evolution of WTO, how the WTO got evolved over a period of time. Then we will also discuss about the different principles based upon which this WTO works, and we will also discuss about the different agreements, right? Different agreements of the WTO. So we will try to cover everything which is related to World Trade Organization, both static portion as well as the current affairs portion, right? So first of all, some of the important facts about the historical evolution, right? So this is about the historical evolution. So as I discussed in the chapter of World Bank and IMF, that during the Bretton Woods conference, three organizations were talked about. First was about the financial stability, right? So there were three organizations which were discussed in the Bretton Woods conference. First was IMF, second was World Bank, and third was International Trade Organization, right? The name of the World Bank, it was like basically IBRD, International Bank for Reconstruction and Development. This was ITO, right? Finally, the agreements were signed about IMF and World Bank in this particular conference only, right? And the discussions about the International Trade Organization started here, and we came up with GATT, General Agreement on Trade and Tariff, right? This GATT was converted into WTO later on. So this is the brief overview about historical evolution. Now, please see this. The GATT was signed in 1947, General Agreement on Tariffs and Trade. So this is an agreement. This is not a organization, right? This is an agreement which was signed in 1947 with 23 founding members. The purpose was to establish free and fair international trade among member countries for goods, right? So this was only and only for the goods. It did not include the services, right? So can you see two important things? First, it was about goods only. Second, it was the agreement. It was not in any way, it was not the organization. This was just an agreement. This was just an agreement, right? So during the class, if you face any problem, please message in the chat box, right? Do not say anything. If you want to say anything, then I will give you an opportunity after I discuss the concept, right? So please do not speak. Keep yourself on mute, right? So that is how we will proceed. If you have any doubt, if you want to ask anything, then try to restrict yourself and wait for the concept to end, right? And if you have something urgent, you are not able to hear my voice or something urgent, then you have an option to send a message in the chat box. So this is how we have to proceed in this particular class, right? Okay. Now, what were the basic objectives of GATT? What were the basic objectives of GATT? The basic objectives of GATT were, number one, to promote non-discriminating trade. There should be no discrimination in the trade, right? Because in this world, we have various resources at different places, right? Somewhere we find oil, somewhere we find agricultural products, somewhere we find manufacturing facilities. So the distribution of world resources is very wide. It is very wide, right? So there should be free and fair trade. So can you see this screen with the GATT? Is it visible to you or not? Yes or no, please say. Is this PPT of GATT is visible to you or not?
No, sir.
It is
No,
not
sir.
visible. Okay, okay. Okay, so I was basically discussing about this. Sorry for the inconvenience, right? So here you can see General Agreement on the Tariffs and Trade. It was signed in 1947 with 23 founding members to establish free and fair international trade regime among member countries for goods, right? So it was for goods only. It was to establish free and fair international trade. The basic objective was to promote non-discriminating trade and to eliminate both tariff and non-tariff trade barriers. What is the meaning of tariff trade barriers? Means imposing some taxes on the import or export. तो जो export duty होती है या import duty होती है उसको हम बोलते हैं tariff barrier, right? So it also includes anti-dumping duty, safeguard duty, right? Countervailing duty. All of these things we already discussed previously, right? Non-tariff barriers, non-tariff trade barriers. Non-tariff trade barriers can be in the form of quota. Quota means the country is levying the upper limit, maximum limit upon the export. तो country ने एक upper limit लगा दी है कि आप इतना export कर सकते हो या इतना import कर सकते हो. So it can be in the form of quota or it can be in the form of some sanitary measures that if food item has to be imported, the quality of food standard should be minimum of this standard, right? So in this way there can be restriction on different trade transactions. So that is a non-tariff trade barrier, right? 3, to remove trade disputes through consultations, right? So we were in the era of Second World War. There were a lot of disputes, including the trade disputes. So the effort was made with the help of this agreement that all the trade disputes among the countries, they should be resolved with the help of the consultation with each other, right? By 1993, 123 countries, they joined GATT. The members of GATT used to control 90% of the world trade. That means majority of the countries who were actively trading with other countries, they joined this grouping, right? However, there was some problem with the GATT. The first problem was it did not include services. The world was moving largely towards the services, but this did not include the services. Secondly, it did not include intellectual property rights. We were moving in the direction of research and development. We were talking about giving rights to the patent, copyright, trade secret, industrial designs, etc. But in the GATT, there was no such protection. And further, there was no institutional structure in the GATT, right? This was just an agreement. This was not an organization. Under the GATT, the negotiations were going on among the members in the form of trade rounds, and they were very, very irregular. They were not regular. These trade negotiations were going on, and the 8th and the last round of this negotiation, which was called Uruguay round. In this Uruguay round, which was held for a long period of more than 8 years from 1986 to 1994, Marrakesh agreement was signed. The Marrakesh agreement was signed. In this Marrakesh agreement, the foundation of WTO was laid down. So as per this Marrakesh treaty, as per this Marrakesh agreement, the WTO was set up, right? The WTO was set up. Now, some of the important facts about WTO. These are the important facts about the WTO, right? So what are the important facts? starting with special and differential treatment. So this special and differential treatment, SND treatment, this is available for the developing countries. This is available for the developing countries, right? So some kind of relaxation or leniency is available in terms of time, which is given to the developing countries for fulfillment of some WTO agreement, right? So if some WTO agreement comes, then the developing countries are given more time to implement that particular agreement. So this is the relaxation given under the special and differential treatment to the developing country. Second, the provisions to increase trading opportunities through greater market access. So they are also given greater market access by different countries, and the provisions such as anti-dumping, safeguards, technical barriers to trade, etc. Right? So these type of special provisions are also available to these developing countries. Now under the S&D provisions only, there is one system which is called Generalized System of Preferences, GSP, Generalized System of Preferences. So this is under the S&D provisions or S&D principle, and this is available to the least developed countries. This is available to the least developed countries. Now what is the meaning of least developed countries? So in the chapter of international organization, in the starting 5-6 pages, I have given the meaning of different organizations, meaning of different categories given by different organizations, right? So what is the meaning of least developed country? What is the meaning of low income, middle income, high income? You can see there. This thing will not be asked in the examination, but for your clarity, for your understanding, I have given the meaning of all these words over there, right? So there is a proper formula, there is a proper identification mechanism through which we can identify which country is the least developing country. So this is available to the least developed countries who are the WTO members. So उनके लिए क्या available है? So this is providing a preferential trade tariff system. This is providing preferential tariff system which provides scope for tariff reduction by other WTO members, right? So other WTO member can reduce the tariff for LDCs. So जो LDC होते हैं उनके लिए कम टैरिफ लगाया जा सकता है by the other WTO members, right? So we have already seen here in the special and differential treatment that they can be given opportunity for greater market access. तो जो other country WTO members हैं वो कम import duty लगाएंगे so that these LDC can increase their market. Apart from that, there are two more things. Basically, as of now, these two systems are being implemented. One is special products, another is special safeguard mechanism, and these were introduced in the Doha round. In the Doha round, right? These were introduced in the Doha round. The first one is special product, and second one is special safeguard mechanism, SP and SSM. So this special product, under this, the agricultural commodities of special importance to the farming communities in the developing countries, they are given the special preference. So for protecting such commodities, for protecting such agricultural commodities, the countries can impose higher tariff on the special product. So for example, India identifies, India कहती है कि suppose I'm taking a hypothetical example. Suppose India says that potato is a special commodity for our farming community, because from potato, a lot of the farmers, they get their livelihood, right? So if India imports potato from some other country, then higher import duty will be levied on the potato which is imported from out of India, right? So once this potato is declared as the special product, after that, if it is imported from outside India, India can levy more tariff, more import duty, right? So this is the protection available under the special product. Apart from that, we have special safeguard mechanism, SSM. So this is also available to developing countries, and they can temporarily impose higher than bound tariff rate. मतलब normal से ज़्यादा tariff rate impose कर सकते हैं in case of the particular agricultural product, and this is allowed if there is sudden surge in the import of the product in the developing member country. So if developing country observes that a particular commodity is being imported in the large quantity, then under the special safeguard mechanism, we can increase the tariff rate temporarily, right? So special product and special safeguard mechanism, these two are the component which are part of the generalized system of preferences, and generalized system of preferences is part of the special and differential treatment, right? तो अभी तक हमने तीन प्रिंसिपल डिस्कस किए. The first principle was most favored nation, the second principle was national treatment, and the third principle is special and differential treatment, under which we have discussed GSP, SP and SSM, right? So these are the three technical terms. Apart from that, if we see the overall principles of the WTO, the first principle is non-discriminatory trade. This non-discriminatory trade is the fundamental principle. There will be no discrimination, right? For that we have MFN and national treatment. So MFN and national treatment, they ensure there is non-discriminatory trade, right? Then free trade. So this free trade is possible, lowering of trade barriers is possible through negotiation, right? So the countries will negotiate with each other and try to reduce the tariff, so that more and more trade can happen across the border, right? Predictable and transparent. Bound tariff rates and market opening commitment that cannot be changed arbitrarily, right? It means the tariff rate will be fixed and all of the countries will be opening their market to each other, and these things cannot be changed arbitrarily immediately. Fourth, protecting against the unfair trade. Disciplines on the use of unfair trade practices. Disciplines on the use of unfair trade practices. So example like anti-dumping duty, countervailing duty, special safeguard duty, all of these tools are available for protecting against the unfair trade practices, right? Then promotion of development of all the countries. So the developing and LDCs, they will get some special treatment. We have already seen special product and SSM. So these are the key principles of the WTO. Now coming to the agreements, क्या क्या agreement WTO के अंदर हैं? What are the agreements which are available under the WTO, right? What are the agreements which are available under the WTO? WTO के अंदर क्या क्या agreements हैं, अब हम उसकी बात करते हैं. So there are various agreement. The first agreement is agreement on agriculture, right? So there are some rules and regulations which have been laid down for the agricultural products. Second, agreement on trade in textile and clothing. This is also called as the multi-fiber arrangement. Third, agreement on trims, trade related investment measures. This is regarding the investment, right? Then we have TRIPS, trade related intellectual property. So this is for the intellectual property, right? तो हमने बताया था कि GATT is not protecting the intellectual property like patent, copyright, trademark, but this WTO has a separate agreement for the intellectual property which is called as TRIPS, right? This has a separate agreement for the trim investment also, which is called TRIMS. Then for services sector also, there is a separate agreement, general agreement on trade in services, right? So these are the different agreement. Out of these agreement, we will discuss about all the agreement except this agreement on trade in textile and clothing, which is not important, right? We will discuss about agriculture, investment, intellectual property, and services. So, coming to the agreement on agriculture, right? So, first one is the agreement on agriculture. In the agreement of agriculture, there are three pillars. There are three different pillars. ये pillars क्या क्या हैं? The first pillar is grant of market access, right? So, all the countries, they will grant the market access to each other. All the countries, they will grant the market access to each other as far as the agriculture sector is concerned. The purpose is to promote and liberalize the agricultural trade. So agricultural commodities should also be traded just like the manufacturing commodities. The purpose is to promote agricultural trade. So under this, first of the pillar is enhancing the market access, and for this enhancing the market access, first of all we have to focus upon the tariff, है ना? So there should be some reduction commitment. The tariff, the import duty, etc., they should be reduced. We can liberalize the quota, and then there are special safeguards. For example, we already discussed about the special product and special safeguard mechanism, right? So these kind of special safeguards may be made available to the relevant countries, right? So this is the first pillar. The second pillar under the agreement on agriculture is the domestic support, right? तो यहाँ पर articles का नाम लिखे हुए हैं. These are not important. These are articles under this agreement. तो आपको ये सब याद रखने की जरूरत नहीं है. आपको ये सब देखने की जरूरत नहीं है, ठीक है? आपके लिए इंपॉर्टेंट क्या है कि तीन पिलर्स के नाम क्या है. तो पहला पिलर आपका मार्केट एक्सेस, दूसरा पिलर आपका डोमेस्टिक सपोर्ट. So what is domestic support? Domestic support talks about how much subsidy can be given by the national government. So how much subsidy can be given by the government of India to the agricultural community? So there is a limit which is available on them, right? So there is a limit which is imposed on these kind of subsidies. So these kind of subsidy can be green box subsidy, or can be blue box subsidy, can be development subsidy, or they can be amber box subsidy, right? We will discuss each one of these things in detail. Third one, that is export competition, right? So we will promote the export competition. We should promote the export competition. We should make some fair rules regarding the export subsidies, right? And there are some other terms, food aid, export credit also, which are not important. Now, out of these, let us see two important points. One is regarding the market access. तो यहाँ पे हमने देखा market access के बारे में, और the first point and third point, right? तो first point और third point हमने already discuss किए हैं. फिर भी हम language में देख लेते हैं थोड़ा सा. So just take 30 seconds and read this slide. चलिए, तो फर्स्ट इज अबाउट द मार्केट एक्सेस, राइट? इट इज वेरी क्लियर कि द मेंबर कंट्रीज शुड रिड्यूस द import duty, or if there are some non-tariff barrier like quota or sanitary measures, those should be converted into the tariff barrier. Phase out export subsidy. So export subsidy phase out करने के लिए कुछ लिमिट्स दी हुई है, these limits are not important for you. Now coming to the domestic support, that is how much subsidy can be given by the national government, suppose government of India. So how much subsidy government of India can give to its agricultural sector, एग्रीकल्चर सेक्टर को कितनी सब्सिडी दी जा सकती है, ठीक है. So this domestic support or subsidy, domestic support का मतलब सब्सिडी, how much subsidy, how much support can be given by the domestic government. So domestic support means how much support or subsidy can be given by the domestic government. So there are two kind of domestic supports. One is those under which there is no upper limit, there is no restriction, basically कोई restriction नहीं है. And then there is second support where there is restriction under the AOA, ठीक है. तो दो तरह की आपकी डोमेस्टिक सपोर्ट्स हैं, एक जिसके ऊपर कोई लिमिट नहीं है और दूसरा जिसके ऊपर लिमिट है. सो फर्स्ट वन under which there is no limit, it includes number 1 green box subsidy, number 2 development subsidy, and third blue box subsidy. So green box, development box, and blue box, these are the three categories where there is no limit. Second category, first is amber box, and inside the amber box only there is de minimis, right? There is de minimis. So there are 4 categories: green box, development box, blue box, and amber box. Out of these 4 categories, there is upper limit only and only on the amber box, right? Now coming to this, so please read this slide carefully, take 30 seconds and read this carefully. Okay, so let us discuss each one of them. Green box subsidy means which are non-trade distorting subsidy, means these subsidies are not given to distort international trade, right? The government is giving these subsidies to address some genuine concerns of the agriculture sector, right? For example, subsidy for research, subsidy for providing training to the farmers, subsidy for providing marketing information, subsidies for developing weak rural infrastructure, right? So these kind of subsidy, they are called non-distorting subsidy, non-trade distorting subsidy, right? And these are allowed under the AOA, and there is no upper limit. There is no upper limit over the green box subsidies. Very very simple. तो ग्रीन बॉक्स में कोई अपर लिमिट नहीं है, देयर इज नो अपर लिमिट. So government can provide without any problem in case of research and development and other areas which are genuinely addressing the concerns of the agriculture sector. Second category is blue box subsidy. So blue box subsidy, for example, the government of India gives the subsidy for suppose fertilizer subsidy. The best example is fertilizer subsidy, right? This fertilizer subsidy is given, first of all, this subsidy is linked to production, and this also puts upper limit automatically. तो आपको याद होगा when I discussed the concept of fertilizer subsidy in the chapter of agriculture, I discussed one thing. I told you that government is actually identifying the farmers through Aadhaar card, right? So nowadays in the fertilizer subsidy, we have implemented DBT scheme. That means that if the farmer comes to buy the fertilizer, the farmer has to show the Aadhaar card, and there is a mechanism through which it will be identified whether the farmer is buying the fertilizer appropriate to the land which is available with the farmer. तो जितनी उसके पास में लैंड है उतना ही सब्सिडी वो ले रहा है. So that puts a upper limit over the subsidy. So inside the government subsidy only, there is some upper limit which is ensured by the government itself, which actually puts some kind of limit on the production itself, which actually controls the production itself, right? So these kind of subsidies are less trade distorting. These are less trade distorting, and there is no limit. Again, there is no limit on the blue box subsidies, right? So first हमने देखा green box subsidy, there is no limit. Second हमने देखा blue box subsidy, there is no limit, right? Now third one, amber box. In case of amber box, these are trade distorting. These are trade distorting, right? And they are encouraging excessive production through subsidies like fertilizer, seeds, irrigation, power, right? So in our case, in case of India, this fertilizer subsidy is not a part of amber box because we are not providing for excessive production. We are actually ensuring that we have sufficient production, right? In other countries, it can be amber box, right? So depending upon country to country, situation to situation, the same subsidy can be categorized as the different category of subsidy, right? So seeds, irrigation, power, depending upon the country again, right? So as per AOA, there is a limit, there is a upper limit on such subsidies, right? Because they are trade distorting. Right? They are providing unfair support to the farmer, which will hamper the free trade. So if the country is providing free power, free electricity, free seeds, then input cost of the farmer will come down. When input cost will come down, the farmer can sell the product at low price in the international market. So such sale at the low price, it is unfair, because if some other government is not providing the subsidy, suppose Indian government is providing the subsidy but the government of Pakistan is not providing the subsidy, then the farmer of India will be at advantageous position as compared to the farmer of Pakistan, right? So this will be unfair. So this kind of subsidy should be controlled, right? So there is an upper limit over such subsidies. For the developed countries, such subsidy should be maximum 5% of the value of agriculture production, and for the developing countries the limit is 10%, right? So developed countries के लिए 5% लिमिट है और डेवलपिंग कंट्रीज के लिए 10% लिमिट है. Another is development subsidy or development box subsidy, right? So this is available for the developing countries only, and it is allowed under specific conditions. For example, investment subsidy, agricultural input subsidy for the low income or resource poor producers, right? So this is available for basically limited countries. Now this is the question of 2016. Please read this question and give what is the answer. Very simple question.
A.
आंसर इज ए, वेरी वेरी सिंपल, कोई इसमें सोचने वाली बात ही नहीं है ना. सो इन द कॉन्टेक्स्ट ऑफ विच ऑफ द फॉलोइंग डू यू समटाइम्स फाइंड आम्बर बॉक्स, ब्लू बॉक्स एंड ग्रीन बॉक्स इन न्यूज. तो ये बहुत सिंपल क्वेश्चन है, आंसर इज ए ओनली, राइट, डायरेक्ट क्वेश्चन. ठीक है. नाउ व्हाट इज द इम्पैक्ट ऑफ AOA ऑन इंडिया? दिस इज इंपॉर्टेंट बिकॉज agreement on agriculture has been in news because of this particular controversy which happened in case of India, right? This particular controversy which happened in case of India, right? So what is this controversy? What is this controversy? Let us see. So basically, I already discussed in the chapter of agriculture that India has been providing a facility of minimum support price to its farmers. Okay. So in the minimum support price, the government guarantees some minimum price, right? And at this price, the government can procure the notified 22 crops from the farmers, right? So this minimum price is available for 22 notified crops, and the farmer is assured that if you cannot sell the product in the open market, you can come to the government and government can buy at this price. So this is a kind of subsidy. This is a kind of subsidy because the government is promising minimum price. Even if the market price is less, still government will provide some price to the farmer. So the government is providing a kind of subsidy to the farmer, right? So this subsidy, as per the WTO regulations in the context of India, this is part of the amber box subsidy. This is part of the amber box subsidy, and definitely if this is part of the amber box subsidy, automatically India is a developing country, therefore there is a 10% limit as a percentage of value of agricultural production, right? There is no problem in this, there is no controversy till now. अभी तक कोई ऐसी controversy नहीं है. There is no controversy till this point. इसमें इंडिया को कोई controversy नहीं है, ठीक है. Now the controversy arises about the calculation of this value of 10%, that how to calculate this 10% value, right? So in the AOA, the reference price for the crop has been given for the year 1996, so 1986 and 88, right? So for example, in 86-88, the price for wheat, suppose we are taking the example of MSP for wheat. Wheat market price was 500 rupees per quintal, ठीक है. Market price 500 rupees per quintal है, ठीक है. Now in the year 2021, the MSP of wheat is 2000 per quintal. So it means, as per the WTO AOA formula, the subsidy will be 1500 per quintal, right? So as per this formula, as per the reference price of 86-88, Indian government is giving the subsidy of 1500 per quintal. This is the point made by the opposition of India in the WTO. So in the WTO, those countries who are opposing the MSP program of India, they are saying that India is providing the subsidy of 1500 rupees per quintal, right? What is the stand of India? What is the stand of India? India is saying that this price of 500 per quintal is very, very old. This is the price of more than 20 years old. It means it did not include the impact of inflation which is there over a period of time, right? So as per the recent reference period, this reference period should be changed from 1986-98 to the recent. For example, 2010, right? In 2010, the market price is suppose 1500, right? And we are providing the MSP of 2000. So our subsidy is just 500 rupees per quintal. Our subsidy is not 1500. Our subsidy is 500 rupees per quintal, right? So this reference price of 86-88 is very outdated. It does not consider the impact of inflation. It does not consider the impact of inflation. So this is outdated. This is the first point made by the India, right? The second point is that we are utilizing this MSP product for the PDS, right? We already discussed in the chapter of agriculture that this MSP is given to the farmer and FCI procures this. FCI is given to the state government who distribute under the PDS at the rate of 1 rupees, 2 rupees, 3 rupees for the coarse cereal, wheat and rice respectively. ठीक है? तो अल्टीमेटली हम लोग इसको अपनी फूड सिक्योरिटी के लिए यूज कर रहे हैं. हम लोग our purpose is not to distort the trade. Our purpose is not to distort the export market. Our purpose is to provide the remunerative prices to the farmer, and ultimately we sell this product to the poor people, to those people who cannot afford the food, and the price which is collected from them is very, very low, right? So these are the 2 points which are made by the India. So India कहता है कि first of all this reference period is wrong. This reference period should be updated to the recent reference period so that this subsidy calculation can be correct. And secondly, that we are giving this MSP not for distorting the trade but for our poor people. This is a genuine program. So this subsidy should not even be considered part of the amber box. So India has raised an objection that even this subsidy should not be made part of the amber box, right? So this is the controversy. Now this controversy kept moving, and those countries which were opposing India, especially the developing countries, so those countries said that we want to enter one agreement, trade facilitation agreement, for free trade, for reducing the custom procedures, for modernizing the customer procedures, for making the trade easier across the border. We want to sign the TFA, trade facilitation agreement. India said that if you do not allow me to give MSP, if you put a upper limit over the MSP, then I will not sign this trade facilitation agreement. और WTO के अंदर there is a rule of consensus. If I do not sign this, then this trade facilitation agreement cannot become reality. This trade facilitation agreement cannot be converted into the formal agreement, right? So at the informal level, the negotiations happened. We already said green room negotiation होते हैं या mini ministerial होते हैं. Ultimately, after the informal negotiations, we agreed that okay, we will sign trade facilitation agreement, but with the condition that this matter of MSP will be kept on hold, right? This matter will not be put against India, right? So we signed a peace clause. This agreement, this informal understanding is called peace clause. So we signed a peace clause, and this peace clause means that the matter will not be pursued against India as far as MSP is concerned, right? And this peace clause is the duration of this peace clause is indefinite, means there is no upper limit to this peace clause, and the countries have agreed that till we sit together and resolve this matter once for all permanently, till that time this peace clause will be applicable for the MSP program of India, right? And no one will dispute the MSP program of India, and this limit of 10% will not be applicable in particular case of MSP program, right? So this is the concept of peace clause. So all these things happened under the concept of amber box, right? So I hope the concept is clear. Now first read the PPT which I am sharing with you, then you discuss something if you have any doubt. Now please read this slide carefully, and I hope that with the discussion that I did, your concept will be clear. On trade in services, GATS, gets. So this is about the services. This is about the services, right? So GATT, which was replaced by the WTO, GATT dealt only and only with the goods. Under the WTO, we are also dealing with the services, as well as we are also dealing with the intellectual property, as well as we are also dealing with the investment. So for the services, we have general agreement on trade in services, GATS. Similarly, for the intellectual property, we have TRIPS, and for the investment, we have TRIMS, right? So starting with the general agreement on trade in services, right? The purpose is to govern the trade in services and to liberalize trade in services. And here the important point is that you should understand there are 4 modes of services, and for these 4 modes of services different rules and regulations are framed under the WTO, है ना? तो इनको अलग-अलग लेवल की प्रोटेक्शन दी जाती है अलग-अलग मोड्स ऑफ सर्विस डिलीवरी को, ठीक है? So what are these modes? So we call them mode 1, mode 2, mode 3 and mode 4. So mode 1 services, mode 2 services, mode 3 services and mode 4 services, right? So mode 1 services, that is the cross border supply, right? For example, Indian company is providing BPO, so it is a cross border supply. Transportation, shipping, aircraft, distant education and online. For example, there are many websites, right, which are running the distance education programs. For example, Udemy, Udemy, right, etc. So these are the mode 1. Mode 2, that is the consumption abroad. So for example, tourism, right? Third, the local delivery of services, and this is also with respect to the capital, local delivery services and capital flows. For example, bank, insurance companies, and then movement of people physically for delivery of services, right? So physical movement of people, for example, some artists from India goes to USA to perform, right? Or some doctor from USA comes to India to perform some surgery. So that kind of movement of personnel is also included in the mode 4. So these are the 4 mode of delivery, right? In this slide you can see once again, mode 1 means cross border services, direct cross border services. Mode 2 means consumption abroad, for example, tourism. Mode 3 means cross border capital flow, for example, foreign banks, insurance companies. and cross-border labor movement, for example, doctor, artist, etc. So these you should know which mode consists of which kind of service. This is only thing which you need to know. This is only thing which is important for your examination, nothing else. So you can be asked to match mode 1, mode 2, mode 3, mode 4 with the relevant service. Right. Now, the next agreement is very important, that is TRIPS. Trade related aspect of intellectual property rights. Agreement on trade related aspects of intellectual property rights, that is a TRIPS, right? This is a very comprehensive agreement, and this has been signed by all the members, and it actually governs the rules about the copyright, patent, trademark, geographical indications, industrial design, that how will we identify and how will they be protected. So what will be the procedure to protect them and for how much duration. Now, coming to the agreement on trade related aspect, under this there are three important aspects: trademark, copyright, and patent. Right. So let us see what is the difference between the three: trademark, copyright, and patent. So trademark basically represents brand. Right. It represents brand. It represents brand. For example, brand of Amul, brand of Tata, brand of Jio. Those are the brand. So you can see logo of Tata is in a particular shape, logo of Amul is in a particular shape, like that, right? What is the purpose? The purpose is to distinguish the product or service from the competitors, right? For example, different kind of word. So organizations follow a particular word font, or they can use some logo, some slogan, or some kind of colors, right? So for example, Vodafone uses happy to support you, like that, right? There is no upper limit for this trademark. So once registered, they are available. The second is copyright. Copyright is available to the people like authors, artists, other artists like singer, right, writer, all other artists, right? So it is available to all those people: writer, authors, singers, etc. The purpose is to protect the original creativity or intellectual work. For example, it is available for musicians, artists, photographers, painters, etc. The time limit is between 70 to 170 years. The third category is patent. Patent is given to the inventors. For example, someone invents corona vaccine, right? Someone invents the corona vaccines, then that organization or that person will be given the patent, right? The purpose is to grant exclusive right to exploit an invention. So if someone has done some invention, the person should also get some benefit. The purpose is to encourage new invention, so that the person who is inventing gets some benefit over the other people, so that more that will encourage more and more people to invent new things. For example, medical devices, technologies, etc. The period for limitation is 15 to 20 years. The protection is available for 20 to 20 years. Let us now see in much more detail. First one is the patent. Patent is a right which is given for an invention. I gave you the example of corona vaccine. So if some organization or some person invents this corona vaccine, this right will be given to that person, and this right will be for a limited period, and this will be given by the government. The government will give the protection, but definitely there needs to be complete disclosure. The person has to prove that I researched this vaccine, this is a procedure I followed, right? I deserve this. ऐसा नहीं है कि आप किसी को भी चीज बोलोगे मैं पेटेंट दे दो. आपको डिस्क्लोज देना होगा. आपको you have to prove that you did that, right? And this is a territorial right. That means if the patent has been granted by Indian government, then protection is available only and only within the India. So if you have to protect your patent throughout the world, then you have to apply for the patent throughout the world in all the countries, right? So separate patent should be obtained for separate countries, right? So India के अंदर we have a Patent Act, 1970 Patent Act, which was amended in 2005, right? So this patent act is available. Under this patent act, we are granting the patent. So it is a statutory right. Statutory means this right is given under a law, under a statute, right? There is no patent valid worldwide. We have already told that this is a territorial right. Now, term of every patent in India is 20 years from the date of filing of patent application, right? And we are giving only product patents. We are giving only product patent. Now, what is the meaning of product patent? So there are two kind of patent. One is product patent and another is process patent, right? So anyone who knows about this, what is the difference between the product patent and process patent? कोई बताना चाहेगा? ओके वंडरफुल, नो इश्यूज, ठीक है जी। तो डिफरेंस क्या है? इन केस ऑफ प्रोडक्ट पेटेंट, द केमिकल सब्सटेंस इज प्रोटेक्टेड, राइट? सो फॉर एग्जांपल, someone uses some chemical, 3 group of chemical, and make some chemical substance, and this is used as a corona vaccine, right? So this substance will be covered. This substance will be covered irrespective of the method, right? As compared to process patent, in case of process patent, only and only the method of processing is protected. So if suppose IIT Delhi, it invents some corona vaccine, right? In case of process patent, only and only the process of manufacturing will be protected, not the chemical substance. So if any other organization, any private company want to make the vaccine using a different process, using the same chemical substance, it is possible under the process patent. So process patent is a weak protection. It is giving the less protection because some other company can slightly change the process and use the same chemical substance and give and claim that I am having the patent, right? So slight change of the process can be done by some other company, and the protection which was available to the original entity, original inventor, that will be not available, right? That will not be exclusive, right? So this process patent is less protective. This is weak form of protection, right? So this process patent is no longer available in the world. Now we are following the product patent. Product patent means we are covering the product itself. We are covering the product itself. So if someone else comes with the same product and someone else says that I have used a different procedure, please protect, please give me patent. I have used a different method. मैंने कोई different method use किया है, लेकिन same product मैंने same chemical substance use किए हैं. So that person will not get the patent, right? And usually this is offered for 20 years. Right? So this is the difference between the product patent and process patent. Now next is the term trademark. Next term is trademark. So trademark is a brand name which gives the visual symbol which helps to distinguish the goods and services, and it is protected under the intellectual property rights. The term for the trademark is 10 years, which can be renewed unlimitedly, right? So in the comparative chart we said trademark can be used indefinitely, but every 10 years it has to be renewed. Every 10 years it has to be renewed, right? This Amul, you can see this symbol, this logo, this trademark. So this is the example. Copyright, this is given to the work of literature, dramatic, musical and artistic, and the producers of cinematograph, films, sound recordings. So all the people who are producing the movies, some song, they get the copyright. They get the right of reproduction. They can reproduce the same work, right? So अगर कोई old, if there is some old song and someone want to use that song to create a remix of that song, the person has to go to the original author of that song, है ना. तो अगर कोई song को remix करना चाहता है तो वो किया जा सकता है, लेकिन that is possible only after the person gets the rights from the original producer. Communication of the work, so that work can be distributed. Adaptation of the work, translation of the work, right? So the same song can be converted into the different language, the same movie can be converted into the different language under this right. Any other person cannot do, only the same person can do, or same person can allow some other person to do the translation work on his behalf, right? Scope and duration of the protection is available depending upon the nature of the work, and these copyrights are considered territorial rights, है ना. तो scope और duration जो है ये nature of the work पे depend करती है, and again they are the territorial right, they are not the worldwide rights. Next is geographical indication, GI. So you might have heard in newspapers GI tag, right? So this GI tag is also there. So it originates from the term geographical territory. So it is used to identify some agricultural, natural or manufactured product which has been produced, processed or prepared in that particular territory. It has a special quality or reputation. Registration is not compulsory, and we have lots of example: basmati rice, Darjeeling tea, Kanchipuram silk sari, Alfonso mango, Nagpur orange, Kolhapuri chappal, बीकानेरी भुजिया, आगरा पेठा, है ना. तो नाम से पता चल जाता है कि दिस बिलोंग्स टू विच एरिया एंड व्हाट इज द स्पेशलिटी. सो उसके टेस्ट में, लुक में, स्मेल, फीलिंग, कलर, everything will be having a special quality. You can see this map. So we can see blue pottery of Jaipur, Rajasthan, Chanderi fabric of Madhya Pradesh, Kutch embroidery, Solapur chadar of Maharashtra, Mysore silk of Karnataka, and so on, right? So we can see Madhubani painting of Bihar, right? So we can see all those things, right? There is a whole list of GI tags. If some GI tag is in news, you should remember those GI tag, otherwise no need to remember all the GI tags, right? अगर कोई न्यूज में है तो उसको याद रखो, सब कुछ याद करने की जरूरत नहीं है आपको. Next is industrial designs. This is also covered under a particular act, and it talks about the outward appearance or for aesthetic style. So for example, some company makes the mouse. This is a computer mouse. So you will find that every company has its own design of the mouse. If you buy the mouse of Samsung, it is of different quality. If you buy the mouse of suppose Lenovo, it is having some different design. Dell company is having a different design. So all the companies are having different designs of this mouse. Similarly, you see car. So car of Hyundai is having different design. i10 is having different design. i20 is having different design. Car of Maruti is having different design. So those are the industrial designs. Those are the industrial designs. The duration of the design is for 10 years from the date of registration. Then we have trade secrets. Trade secrets. So those are the practices which should not be known to other person, and they are permanent, right? Example: customer list, recipe, how to make dosa, how to make some particular product, financial projection, business method, marketing plan, formula, devices, manufacturing technique, processes, sales data, market studies, pricing information, computer program, etc. So all of these were under the TRIPS, right? So these were available under the TRIPS. Right? So you can see it contains the rules regarding copyright, patent, trademark, geographical indication, industrial design, etc. Right? Now the next agreement is TRIMS, TRIMS, trade related investment measures. Trade related investment measures. So this is basically talking about the protection to the investment. So there can be some investment which distort the market and investors, right? So there can be some investment which distort the market and the investors. So this agreement says that all the member nations will not discriminate between the domestic and foreign investment particularly when the government is spending is involved, right? So none of the government will discriminate between the domestic and the foreign investment, right? And WTO has given a list of prohibited investment, for example, local content requirement, export obligation, technology transfer. So for example, India cannot say that if you have to establish a mobile manufacturing unit in India, you have to utilize the raw material from India only. Or it cannot say that if you are establishing some industry in India, you have to export at least 80% of your goods, or you have to utilize the technology of a particular country or particular company. That kind of restrictions cannot be put in case of investment, right? India has opposed these TRIPS because it says that investment is not a trade matter. Investment is different from the trade, right? And WTO is a trade body, therefore it should not interfere in the matter of investment, right? So India is in opposition to the TRIMS. This is about the TRIMS, TRIMS, right? There is one more term you will come across: sanitary and phytosanitary measures. Sanitary and phytosanitary measures. So these are for the hygiene. So if some country want to ensure some minimum safety and hygiene standard regarding the imported products, it can implement certain international standard, some standard or over the food item, animal item, so that the health and hygiene is maintained, right? So for example, India imports some food item from the China in the current scenario. So India can put some restriction so that the product is not infected by the coronavirus, right? So to maintain the safety and health of the people, any country can put any obligation, any standard before the import. So such kind of restrictions are called sanitary and phytosanitary measures, right? And the member countries can use their own standard, but these standards should be based on the science. ऐसा नहीं है कि आप कुछ भी बोलना शुरू कर दो, ठीक है ना? आप कुछ भी बोलना शुरू कर दो, ऐसा नहीं है. These standards cannot be arbitrary. These should be based on the science. And WTO encourages to use the international standards. There are various forms of standards. For example, the product should come from disease-free area. So, for example, India can put a restriction that if some food product has been manufactured in the region of Wuhan, then we will not allow the import. So, this kind of product, this kind of restriction is possible under the sanitary and phytosanitary measure. Specific treatment of the product. We can say that there should be some specific treatment. For example, the product should be sanitized before it is entering into the Indian market. Setting an allowable level of pesticide or permitted use of only certain additive of product in the food, right? So this kind of restriction should be put. In case of India, this some European countries, they have been opposing the mango of India, Alfonso mango, because of some sanitary and phytosanitary measures. So this was the news which was there 3-4 years ago. Now, I told you something about trade facilitation agreement of WTO, that when India was facing the problem of amber box subsidy regarding the MSP program, it signed the trade facilitation agreement. So this trade facilitation agreement is in force since 2017. The purpose is to minimize the red tapeism, right? The purpose is to bring simplification, modernization and harmonization of the export and import processes. So all the countries want to minimize the import and export formalities so that the trade across the borders, it becomes easy. This agreement came into force in 2017 and this is the result of Doha round, right? And this was adopted by WTO members during 2013 Bali Ministerial Conference. So this is the part of 2013 Bali Ministerial Conference. So in the 2013 conference only, the peace clause was signed, and in the same conference, in the same ministerial conference, this trade facilitation agreement was adopted, but it was implemented after India signed in 2017, right? So first adoption was done in 2013, but it came into force, it was implemented practically in 2017 only, right? This contains the provisions for expediting the movement, release and clearance of the goods, including goods in transit. And India has ratified, India has signed, India has ratified this TFA. Now please read this question and tell me what is the answer. This GC acts as the DSB. GC means General Council. This General Council acts as the dispute settlement body. Dispute settlement body, right? So if there is any violation of any WTO rule, the rule of most favored nation, rule of national treatment, right? Rule of the minimum, domestic support, any rule under any agreement, if there is any violation, first the parties will start bilateral consultation with each other, right? So first stage is the bilateral consultation. They will discuss with each other how to resolve the matter. If still they fail, once they fail, after the failure, within the 60 days, the party can go to the General Council for adjudication, right? वो अपना केस General Council में फाइल कर सकते हैं. So General Council will act as the dispute settlement body, and the judgment of the dispute settlement body, the GC, it will be challenged by the parties at the appellate body of WTO. So if someone is not happy with the decision, the person may challenge. It is the discretion of that person. It may uphold, modify or reverse the earlier judgment of the General Council. Okay? So this appellate body, it can actually change the judgment of the General Council, right? And the order of WTO or AB is binding. जो ये appellate body है, इसका जो order है वो binding होता है. And if the erring country does not follow the order, if the country which is doing the violation and the appellate body has decided something against that country, the other country is allowed to take retaliatory measure, right? So for example, Pakistan violates some rule for India, and India goes to the appellate body of WTO. India wins the case, and Pakistan do not follow the decision of appellate body. Then India can do whatever it want to do to take the retaliatory measure, right? So poor countries actually suffer because they cannot retaliate against the developed countries, right? As per the 2019 annual report, WTO members have initiated 38 new disputes in 2018, and this is the annual highest since 1995. तो अभी सबसे ज्यादा dispute हमारी WTO के अंदर हो रहे हैं, ठीक है? There is one more term used in the context of world trade, that is rule of origin. Rules of origin, right? So I will discuss the concept of free trade agreement, all those concept, trade, like all those things I will discuss in the next class. So this concept of rules of origin is regarding that only. In fact, I will discuss this concept at that point of time only, so that the things are more clear to you. I will not discuss right now, right? So with this, I complete the topic of WTO. In fact, let me give you an overview of rules of origin. अगर आप देख ही रहे हो slide को तो पढ़ ही लो थोड़ा सा इसके बारे में. So what is this rules of origin? So suppose there are some countries who have signed the FTA. Suppose ASEAN, the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, they have signed an FTA, Free Trade Area Agreement. So what is Free Trade Area Agreement? That the member of Free Trade Area Agreement, they agree on some reduction of tariff. They agree that okay, we will reduce the import duty on the product which are imported from the member countries of the FTA, right? So they all agree for minimizing the tariff and minimizing the non-tariff barrier also. So both tariff barrier and non-tariff barrier both are minimized. Now suppose Malaysia says, suppose Malaysia is a part of ASEAN, Malaysia says that all the mobiles which are being manufactured in the state of Vietnam, I will allow 10% import duty concession for those import, right? Now in this case, what is important is how to identify that whether mobile is being manufactured in the Vietnam or not. It is quite possible that some company is manufacturing the mobile in China and it routes its product through Vietnam and sales in the Malaysia to take the advantage of 10% concession to the in the import duty, right? So in this complex web of transactions, these rules of origin come to the play. So these rules of origin actually define that how in a free trade area this this product will be identified, whether this product is being manufactured in a particular country or not, which particular products will be given the concession, what will be the terms and condition which will be applicable for giving the concession. So this is called the rule of origin, right? So this is called the rule of origin. This rule of origin is in news because India has rejected the RCEP, Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement, and India has rejected. One of the reason is these rules of origin are not acceptable to India. There is some controversy regarding the rules of origin, right? So these rules of origin, there is some controversy regarding the rules of origin. That is why this term is in news, right? So I will discuss this term in more clarity with more example when I discuss the concept of free trade area agreement, all those things next time, right? I hope the concept is clear. And in this slide only, I will mail you this slide. I will mail you all the slides of the previous sessions also. I have not done that. I'm really sorry for that. So I will mail you this this particular slide in which I have made this World Bank matter, right? I will not discuss because this is very factual. Nothing to discuss. I don't think anything is important here which I need to discuss. Nothing is conceptual. Everything is factual. That is why I will say that all of you please go through this. I have highlighted the important points. I have made the very student-friendly slide. So you read from this and you also read your study material and you will understand this World Bank topic very easily, very clearly, right? So just for 1 minute, the difference between the World Bank and the IMF, you can see IMF was established in 1945, World Bank also. So both are the Bretton Woods Conference organizations. The objective of IMF is exchange rate stability and to solve the BOP problems. The objective of World Bank is the promotion of social and economic development, right? So main purpose is development. It provides loan to the government and member countries. Member countries को ही loan दिया जाता है. Here the loan can be given to the government as well as the private sector. This is very important. The World Bank can give the loan to the private sector as well. In the IMF is a single body. IMF is a single body, but this World Bank, it has 5 associated institutions, right? In case of IMF, the funding is coming through quota, multilateral borrowing, and even bilateral borrowing, which we discussed in the earlier session. In case of World Bank, this is coming through sale of bond, and sometimes the contribution can be made by the rich member countries like USA. So these are the points of difference between the IMF. Now let me give you a quick overview so that when you read this slide you are comfortable. So there are 5 agencies which are part of the group. So there is one organization called World Bank and one is called World Bank Group, right? So these 5 agencies combinedly they are called World Bank Group. IBRD, International Development Association, International Finance Association, Investment Guarantee Agency, and Dispute Agency. These 5 combined they are called World Bank Group. IBRD and IDA, these 2 combinedly they are called World Bank. So if someone says World Bank, it means IDA plus IBRD. IDA plus IBRD. If someone says World Bank Group, it means 5 agencies, all of these 5 agencies, right? So all of these things have been mentioned over here, and this is important that if someone country wants to be member of World Bank, it has to be member of the IMF also, right? Then IBRD, this was basically to develop the Second World War damaged countries. It provides long-term loans at a very concessional rate, right? So you would have heard about कि World Bank ने इंडिया को डेडिकेटेड फ्रेट कॉरिडोर के लिए पैसा दिया, वर्ल्ड बैंक ने स्मार्ट सिटी के लिए पैसा दिया, तो लॉन्ग टर्म के लिए पैसा मिलता है लो रेट ऑफ इंटरेस्ट पे, ठीक है? Then International Development Agency, this is also soft lending arm. This also provides zero or very low interest rate for a long period of time, right? Then this has been contributing India in the education, rural development, green and white revolution, HIV/AIDS, TB, polio, right? So this has been contributing to India also. Then International Finance Corporation, this provides support to the private sector, exclusive to the private sector. This is important, right? Only and only to the private sector. International Finance Corporation, only and only for the private sector, right? Then this is important that this IFC actually raised the money through rupee bond and masala bond, right? Rupee bond and masala bond, and this is the largest country in IFC's investment portfolio. Then MIGA, it promotes the FDI. It provides the guarantee for the FDI. So if country want to invest into some other country, it can give the guarantee, right? Then this investment dispute settlement body, India is not a member of this. India is not a member of this. Then these are different reports. You should remember all of these reports, which are published by the World Bank. You should remember these reports. Then we have human capital index. You just go through these important points, and I have discussed the difference between IMF and World Bank.